During my most recent stream, which by the way is from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time from Monday to Saturday, an in-game player by the name of Sono joined and offered to carry me through one of my daily dungeons. You can see that Sono hits the damage cap and is a highly funded hardcore player. After the runs, I was able to take a look at some of his gear. He even offered some screenshots over Discord that allowed me to compare some of his accomplishments during the stream and give insights to other players. All of this footage is unorganized and unscripted, unlike this intro. Use the video timeline to find certain sections. Keep in mind that this is peak in-game and does not serve to discourage, but to be used as a reference for min-maxing your account in the long term. Also, the link to the full stream is in the description. Enjoy. Let's check out some of Sono's gear. He's super loaded. This is how my accessories are going to look on Thursday. On Thursday, I'm trying to get all my accessories to loosen, and then once they're loosened, I'll awaken them. But his are like extremely optimal though. He has gear with 3 lines of level 13, which is like, I don't know what the numbers are on that, but that probability is really low. So that's a lot of remaking the same gear over and over again. But yeah, this is the result of hard work right here. And then the 200 crit glove. Look at my glove. I have to remake my glove to get it this strong. Super nice. Probably lots of other things on there. Yeah, maxed out Tengu. A lot of stuff like that makes a big difference. And then look at that level 45 challenge seekers glasses. This is 100% free-to-play content. This is the result of long hard work right here. The glasses and the blush. This is like absolute endgamer stuff right here. Sono is playing at like peak LaTale. This is peak LaTale hardcore gamer right here, bruh. +1 nightmare relic. So you look at the differences on our armors. Like his max is 10 higher than mine. His static damage is like almost 30% higher. That stuff it makes a big difference. And then I have to redo my pants. Like he has 80 more crit on his pants. That stuff plays a major role. Yeah, he's like 80%. All of his gear is like 80% up in terms of the stats. Like if you can get 100% on each roll, he's at like 80% plus. Besides his plates dual minimum damage, but I understand why he wouldn't re-roll that, because dual min isn't that important in our game. So looking at this, I probably wouldn't re-roll my plate, or I'll do it last. I don't know if Sono's still around, but he sent me his screenshot, so I'm gonna talk about those in Kali. Cool. So yeah, I got Discord up. Sono sent me the screenshots. Let's take a look at some of these. So looking at memorials, right? So right now looking at Sono's his Muins compared to mine. You can see that I'm aiming to get to this point, but if you don't know about memorials, these numbers on the far left is the tier essentially. So if it was 1, that'd be the lowest tier, and then for whatever the highest number is, in this case it looks like 5 is the highest tier, and that tier is going to have the highest potential for stat. And so I got tier 3 300, Sono's rocking tier 4 600. That's already twice the stat. We both have a tier 5 on that second one, but he rolled a higher. He has another tier 5. I have a tier 3 here. He has another tier 5. And right now, if you're not unaware, we're comparing like my damage essentially, where I'm at in the game, which is like lower in game. I'm at like the lower level of in game. I can almost do all the normal dungeons, but Sono can solo every dungeon in the game on normal with no problem. And this is one of the reasons why, because his memorials are significantly better than what mine are, and I have to get them to this point, and I have a lot of mats to use to get there. But you can see that essentially he has all tier 4 and all tier 5 on his memorials, and I have 1 tier 5 and 1 tier 4. So I have to re-roll the rest of these, and these reset crystals, they cost 40 mil in Belos. And so I can re-roll this and get a lower tier, or I can keep farming to get a higher tier, but it's a long process. If you ever want to get to endgame, you want to get far in the game, this is a good stream for it right now. Let's take a look at my Levi's. So on my Levi's, I have attack. Looks like the second highest tier for attack. No, the third highest tier for attack. I have attack, max, crit. These are all low tier. Attack, crit, max, attack, and crit. Looking at Sono's, he has all tier 5 max. So he rolled all tier 5 maxes. Out of the 5 tiers, he rolled max, and he has some of the highest damage rolls possible. All right. Self-explanatory there. Looking at my Casno Memorial, Casno Heroes skills, and I don't have any of my classic skills yet, besides on the set effects, where I have my one infinity skill. And oh, Sono just he told us in the chat 15 is max, so he has 1, 2, 3. He has 3 maxed Levi's. And looking over here, I'm going to take a guess and say that something in here is likely for his he says he mains, is that mage you said, Sono? You main mage? As you can see, I mean, you have tier 1s through tier 4s. I have not rerolled Iris at all, which is why she has the most memorial fragments down here. And he has a couple tier 5s. He's probably trying to go for some of the highest tiers for Iris, and I know she has a special set effect. All right, taking a look. Let's go a little deeper now. On this next page, looking at DMP. So looking at DMP, the highest tier once again is 5. I have no tier 5s at all, but I have all basic stat and all strength. So at some point in time, I want to reroll all of these and get them to be at least like tier 4 or tier 5. And I have a variety of strength, basic attack, and he has tier 5, basic attack 900, strength 1k plus, strength 1k plus, strength 1k plus, basic attack 1k plus, basic attack 1k plus. And when you have percent damage or percent gear, so like this gear right here, Twisted Guardian Plate, if I get my Twisted Guardian Plate, if I roll one that has 45% basic stat on it, and then I also have Sono's DMP memorials, my strength stat is going to be extremely high. My basic stat is going to be extremely high. And then looking at showing palms, I got a tier 3 attack, mostly tier 1s, and some tier 3s in there. I have to reroll this definitely. I have 1 crit. I feel like crit's the most important though here, either crit or max. And as you can see, they're all pretty much low tier. And then let's look at Sono's as well. And Sono has all level 5s. Once again, he has crit 12, crit 22, max 12, crit 11, max 21, max 13, crit 21, max 21, crit 19. And this is just another example of the difference between getting over those actual in-game walls. This is like one of the last things you want to do in the game. And then looking at CM, I have no skills for my main again. None of the awakening skills, so it'll be these skills right here. I have no bonuses on there. And we just saw in game that Sono was playing Rogue Master, and it looks like he has two Rogue Master skills on there, and then he has like, it looks like a couple Shadow Walkers, some Sword Dancers. I'm sure he probably plays some of these other classes as well. So looking at his Mune's effect, right? Let's go back to the beginning. So my Mune effect, I have a tier 3, which I believe is the highest tier. Yeah, I believe it's the highest tier. So he actually got super lucky with some of these. I have tier 3 with 3% strength and magic, and then a tier 2 with 1% basic stats. So total, I get 4% strength, which is what I'm looking for with this stat. And then I have 1% elemental resistance, which isn't really important or valuable. And Sono has he's rolled a tier 1 basic stat with 1%, but I'm guessing he kept this, of course, and he kept defense as well, which is much better than elemental resistance, because he rolled 4 lines instead of the 3 lines that I rolled. And on top of that, he rolled 4% for strength and magic on a tier 2, which is, I'm pretty sure that's the highest you can get on a tier 2. But he rolled it twice, so he's rocking 9% on that strength and magic. And I'm pretty much less than half of that with what I have. Just another example of that difference. Looking at Levi, my Levi is at 1% for crit, 1% for max. I rewrote this a couple times, and this is the best I got for a while, so I rolled with it. I just kept it. And looking at Sono's again, whereas Levi, he has 1% max. It's like as I do. He got 2% crit, which is really good. The static damage isn't that big of a deal, especially since it's tier 1. but then he got a tier 3 dual static damage. And once again, static damage isn't the most important stat in the game, but it is true damage. You know, it's numbers that are unchanging, but they're unchanging on the lower level. But getting as much of it as possible in the late game when you already have so many other stats that are pretty much getting capped out or maxed out. What Sono's doing here, he's just filling holes, right? He already has, you know, full max sets in his Levi. He has full max and crit sets in his Sean Palms. And so on his Levi's set effect, that dual static damage at 8%, which is one of the highest tiers you can get, that's really beneficial for him because he's filling in a hole where he wouldn't get it anywhere else outside of maybe a few pets and his helmet. And I'm sure there's a couple other pieces of gear, but I'm just really talking about some of the big pieces, some of the ones that have some of the biggest impact, right? So he's filling that hole and that gap in his gear by keeping that stat. But simultaneously though, he rolled 1% max and 2% crit, which I'm sure he wouldn't want to lose, especially since he got that icing on the cake of dual static damage plus 8%. So that's super good. Looking at Kazno, he has skill damage plus 25%. I didn't even know this existed. I've seen the spreadsheet, but I didn't know this was a thing. So now I'm definitely probably going for that soon, because that's definitely much better than rolling for +4 on my infinity skill, right? So here I have a +3 on a infinity skill for a class I don't play, and then +4 for another class I don't play, but I have +4 on my infinity skill. But I'm pretty sure anyone would tell you that 25% on all your skills damage, that's a big deal. That can be the difference between consistently hitting damage cap in some situations or not. Let's say if Sono were to compare his stats with someone else who had similar stats as him, you know, someone who has all the same memorials, Sono would still be hitting harder than them off of the strength of his skill factor is increased by 25%. Taking a look at DMP, I think I have some pretty decent ones for now. I'm going to hold on to these for quite a while. 7% strength and magic, 3% resistance, and 1% luck. The luck is valueless. The resistance, I'm not sure if that's a typo, if it's damage mitigation or not, but either way, if it's just normal resistance, valueless as well. But the 7% strength and magic, I'm holding on to that for a while because it is tier 3 and this system is very expensive, in-game expensive. It looks like Sono rode 4% strength and 4% basic stats, so that's 8% total. So I'm right under him in terms of the strength percentage. He's also getting 8% for his HP. He's getting 4% for luck, but he's getting 8% for his strength and magic. So he's one stat higher for strength and magic, but he's also getting that 4% HP. So that's really bad. And it's also increasing his defense as well because basic stats increase defense. And then Sean Palms, I'm looking at 3% attack intensity, 4 crit damage and 20 max, 26 max actually. It is 4 lines, so I'm probably going to hold on to this one longer or as long as possible as well. Looking at Sonos again, he got 4% max, which and 4% crit. This is like the highest. This is like SSS tier rolls right here. Just off the strength of he already is maxed out on these memorials, but now he's walking around with 4%, 6%. He's walking around with an additional 6% crit damage, and then for the max he has 1%. And then 4%. So he's walking around with 5% max damage, and that's extremely big for the end game. Extremely big for the game in general to have that on your overall account. That will boost these numbers really by quite a lot. His max and his crit, and this probably aids in getting over that 3K, maybe even the 4K crit damage wall that a lot of people get to when they're pursuing end game. And then looking at his CM or CM, I have Terra Knight +4. I have not touched this at all. It needs to be re-rolled, of course. But looking at his, he got Rogue Master Legend skill. That's Legend 2. That'll be this skill right here. He has that at +3. Skill damage, once again, another thing I didn't even know existed. His skill damage +26, meaning his skills are hitting much higher than anyone else who will be playing with his similar stats who doesn't have additional skill damage. So that's a big difference right there. Sono sent me a bunch of other screenshots I can talk about really quickly. These have a lot of value. So these are pet potentials. Pet potential on the free-to-play side of things is going to be a little bit harder, but as Sono stated earlier, advice-wise, he said, you know, you want to progress faster, all you have to do is Ely farm. And so I'm going to show some of my potentials. If I was to compare my item drop rate pet potentials to Sono's, I put the bear on as well. because the bear gives 30 item drop rate. And then for those potentials, I have, let's see, +2, +2, +3, +8, +2, and +2. And let's see, I know somewhere else in here I have another item drop rate. Okay, it's Ely gain rate. So as you can see from my item drop rate potentials, I have +2, +2, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I have +19 item drop rate, and this is all I've rolled so far. And once again, to get these, you'll pretty much be farming Ely and buying the special pet potentials from other players. So like the marketplace, these come around in flash sale a lot. If you're a free-to-play player, the best way is to save up for this. This is more so in-game content. This is more so min-max content. This is like you're trying to push your limits. I would not say that you need to focus on stuff like this as a free-to-play player who is focused on playing every dungeon in the game on easy. This is extra gameplay. This is extra content. This is like, I want to be as strong as possible. I want to get as many stats as possible. I want to get the highest item drop rate possible. And so let's take a look at Sono's again. So Sono, once again, he has all rare, and all specials. And to give a comparison, I have C tiers, B tiers, a couple. I have 1S for item drop rate, but this is like, I'm gonna get a calculator. Let's put a calculator up. Let's do that. So let's do 15, 9, 9, 8, 8 plus 8, 9 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 14 plus 14 plus, look at that, look at that rare right there. Let me pull that back up. Look at that rare plus 19. Did I do that last one right? Yeah, 148. So Sono's getting 148 item drop rate just from his pet potentials. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. But this is once again in-game min-maxing situations right here. As I say every day, I've been playing this character right here, my account, up to 4K for 5 months. It's going to be 6 months in a couple weeks. And this is where I am. I do spend, I have not put a lot of money or effort on farming to get my potentials up yet. Don't let this idea stress you out. This is like, this is where you want to get. This is what you're aiming for, right? This is what everyone should be aiming for. If you're trying to min-max your account, you're trying to get to the best stats possible, right? I'm sure Sono's even rolling to get more rares on some more ugly pets. And let's talk about that a little bit. So if you see, I have an ugly pet here. I have another ugly pet here. What you're seeing here is that, let's say you start to run out of pets. It's easier to just buy these, and this is a complete free-to-play method, buy these out of Bellows or the pet shop in Elias, and you just roll the potentials for these pets. And by the way, you don't need special pet potentials, right? You can use event stimulants, which by the way, when Laboom comes, these will be very common. They will drop in the new Ely dungeons and the item drop rates, and these will drop as well. And so it's not going to drop these old ones anymore, or it still might. Right now, this is what's in our current dungeon, right? And then you'll upgrade these to get the 100 point versions. So now after Laboom comes, and it's great because this is a Road to Laboom stream. After Laboom comes, it'll be easier to get these 2 stimulants because they'll be dropping in the actual dungeons now. So that's definitely a major boost, a major way the game is leveling out for free-to-play players, more casual players, and just any player in general. I could go ahead, let's see if I just throw a random pet in there real quick. This one has stamina on it, right? You don't need the special pet potentials to get Sono stats, but the special pet potentials will always give you the S tiers and R tiers. And someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I just know that if I was to roll a special pet potential right now, I'd see multiple lines of S or Rs. And that's just the major difference. But you can still get S or R with these other ones. It's just the rate is significantly lower. It's actually more rare. And you just buy these from other players if you're free to play, or you wait for events because they're giving out in events. I know they're giving out in, I want to say attendance. I can double check on that. I didn't get anything nice right now. See right here, you can get a special pet stimulant in attendance. And you know, this is 1 month. Let's go back. It was another one 2 months before that. And there was one this month as well. So just in this span of 4 months as a free-to-play player, you could have gotten lucky and rolled on 4 ugly pets, completely free to play, just logging into the game. You could have gotten lucky and rolled 1, 2, 3, and 4. If that was your luck, that's what had happened. Because when you roll for the pet potential, you get 3 lines, 3 stats to choose from. And granted, they might not be item drop rate. You might even be luckier than Sono in that situation, you know, and roll like a rare for dual max or an S tier crit. This is just the importance of taking advantage of events. So you can get all of these stats taking advantage of events. But once again, I would not recommend this as a focus for anyone who is not at the end game level, but this is definitely a screenshot to take and hold on to for like end game goals in general. I'm gonna read Sono's messages in the chat. I didn't see all those messages. He said 3 Rogue Master skills. He has 3 Swordian skills and 2 Shadow Walker. I didn't see those messages earlier, Sono. I'm just seeing them right now. He's talking about the skills he has here. And he says Iris doesn't matter. That's why he doesn't reroll that. So hopefully anyone who was listening and reading the chat saw what Sono was saying. My chat actually was not scrolled down, so I just didn't see it. He says he thinks for Dark Moon max number is around 2,000 for DMP. For DMP at tier 5, the max number is around 2K. And he says max is 22 because his main is Swordian. He has 200K static damage. 25% skill damage is max. Okay, that's good to know. 25% skill damage is actually max. We just got that from Sono, our in-game player. This is actually a max damage stat for anyone in the chat who read that. 7% is super high. My memorial, 7% for strength of magic. So like if I had got lucky and gotten 7% and then I gotten like 7% again for basic, that would have been really crazy, right? Then he said skill damage is more important. Skill damage is the most important than getting it for a specific skill because it applies to all your skills. Keem asked Sono, he said, Sono, at 3K Ascension, what memorial should I have focused first? And Sono said Levi. So Sono's saying if you want to focus a damage memorial, the first one you want to focus is Levi. It gives you the most bang for your buck, right? So if I tried to reroll Levi right now, it would only cost me 20. And as you can see here, I mostly re-roll Levi as well because I have more of the other ones. But the difference here is that if you try to roll these ones, it will cost you 10 of each memorial. And so in Sean Palms, 10 of each as well. So it's more expensive. And so looking at the Levi as well, Sono has... He is at 20%, 2% crit and 1% max, and his Levi's are all max. So he's recommending we go full max for Levi because it looks like it has a higher chance and it's the higher stat. And even looking at my table here, I have level 7 maxes with level 4 and level 1 crits and level 6 maxes. So it seems like that's a viable strat. I'd probably go, I'd probably prioritize attack and max for myself. And then looking at the chat again, Ajo Gamers, what's up, Ajo? He said he actually rode a 37 EGR from the attendance special stem. Shout out to Ajo for that. I was just talking about that, right? How you can use attendance events to boost your account as a free-to-play player. Any player can do this. He rode 37 on the Ellie gain rate, which taking a look at my highest pet that I have for Ellie gain rate is 23 at S. That's an R tier Ellie gain rate pet potential. Appreciate you. And let's look at what Sono's saying again before we go over this last pet potential. Levi showing palm, but not the set. Set is too expensive, and critical is good as max, but he can't get any tier 5 crit. He's saying that tier 5 crit has a low rate, so it's better to focus on max because of the tier 5 crit rate being very low in comparison. All right, and then the last thing here, I want to do a direct comparison. Keep in mind, free-to-play players, casual players, Sono may have 1,000 pets for all we know, but as you can see, he's using the ugly pet. These are ugly pets locked out, so he can't delete them. He's using ugly pets to get all these potential. And for all we know, that those could be rolled with all special potentials, or they can be rolled with free potentials, right? It's all about RNG. This is a Korean MMO. RNG has to be on your side on that day. If it is, then you're good. If not, you just keep trying. But the game will give out free special potentials over time, and there are events over time that can help you. Look at that, I just rolled stamina again, unfortunate. And it was a lower stat too, but I changed it. Either way, I'm not going to use this. It's just for example purposes. But yes, you can roll those stats, and you can roll higher stats for free. So taking a look at Sonos again though, he has all rares for his damage build, and he has 1S. So I'm going to put my damage build on to have a direct comparison. All right, got some FPS drop in here. This is pre-Laboom lag. That's tough. For anyone looking at this content post-Laboom, you're in the future. So looking at my stats, I have all S's and all rares, and I used actual pets. It's just a reflection of like how early I am with this. I'm not at the point in the game where I'd have, because I've seen this on Korean LaTale and I see with a lot of pro players, all these slots will be filled with ugly eggs. Every single one of these slots, if I was intentionally going for min and maxing, right? This is just over time. My account, I've had my account since 2017, and like getting on the game on and off, getting free pets, buying some pets from other players. This is just what has happened in the run of that. I got S tier dual max, I believe that's kind of low. S tier dual crit, R tier dual max, I'm gonna keep this, I'm probably keeping this forever. S tier basic stats, S tier dual crit 9, S tier basic stat 1, S tier basic stat 1. Once again, this is like I'd say my pet potentials are like, it's like an A tier sheet. You know, like this is where you want to start off at before you start really min-maxing and going for the best stats that we'll see on Sono's page. But as you can see, I have mostly S tiers, and they're not for the best two options, which are dual max and dual crit. If you want to be optimal with damage, as optimal as possible, you probably want to go for dual max and dual crit for everything, and we'll see that on Sono's sheet. But attack and basic stats are also very valuable. This is a long-term commitment. This is not something that's happening in a couple months. This is not something that's happening tomorrow. This is something that just happens over a long period of time playing LaTale, and I've got in mind to this point as a result of hopping on the game on and off for years and then taking it more seriously for the last 5 months. Cool, you got a good idea of this. Let's look at Sono's. So looking at Sono's here, so he has S tier dual crit. This is similar to where I'm at for the S tier, so he's still min-maxing his actually. Then he has all rares, right? So he has rare dual crit 13, dual crit 15, 16, max 13, 18. The cap is 19. It's either 19 or 18. And then dual max 13, dual max 18, dual max 12, dual max 19, dual crit 14, dual max 18, dual max 15, dual max 12. Let's put this into the calculator. Let's take a look at how much dual crit Sono is getting alone. So 8 plus 13 plus 15 plus 16 plus 14 plus 15. And so he's getting 81 crit from his pets. And if you remember, when we go back up here, Sono has 4% crit, then he has 2% crit. So he has 6% crit. And so this is crazy math here. I haven't been in school in a minute, so don't judge me too much. But just off of this stat alone, if you were to do times, what is that, 0.06, he'd be getting an additional 4.86 crit for his pet potential. So he really has 85 crit essentially off of his pets alone. And obviously that number could increase significantly depending on the stats. So I have 24 crit. And if I had Sono's crit stats off pets alone, I'd pretty much be at 2,500. And I'm using a buff here, which gives 40 crit. And I have a bit of percent crit stats on my account as well. So that may be boosting up to like 43, 45. So keeping that in mind, I could get essentially a full 100 crit just by having these pet potentials. And then let's look at the max damage now. For max damage, he has 13 plus 18 plus 12 plus 19 plus 18 plus 2 plus 17. So he's getting 99 max. Taking a look at his memorials alone, he's getting 4%, 1%, and that's 5% additional max off of his pet potentials. And in the long term, that's pretty big because I'm sure he has other pet potentials that are giving that percentage as well. Well, he has other potentials on his account that's giving that percentage as well. And then looking at, he has 18 dual defense penetration. And I'm going to take a guess and say that Sono's defense penetration is probably at around 98, which is extremely optimal in game. Like, I want to say any player watching this right now, new, casual, or whatever, your goal, I would say your general goal is probably to keep around 90 to 92 defense penetration. You want to try to get your defense penetration there, and there are a variety of ways that increases, one of them being the characteristic that adds your plus 10 defense penetration. And another free-to-play way, an absolute free-to-play way, is the burning event, in which we will have another burning event when Laboon drops in 2 days. The burning event gives Great Festival Brownie, which is a perm pet. I would say this is the best pet to get out of the burning box. And Great Festival Brownie is a permanent pet, no need to ever revive it, and it gives dual defense penetration plus 15. And if we look on our pet list in the guidebook, Brownie is the best in slot dual defense penetration pet in the game. So you can get the best dual defense penetration pet in the game for free by leveling up in the burning event, which comes around a couple times a year, which means that you can easily get 2 to 4 free pets a year off the burning event, and it's coming around again literally in 2 days. So keep that in mind when we're talking about defense penetration and thinking about how Sono has 18 off his pet potential here, which is really high, and is an absolute in-game stat. And 2% attack, self-explanatory. Attack is one of the main and most important stats. Now that we've gone over, how his in-game memorial, and I'm going to keep saying in-game in front of that because this is not something to stress about early on, but something to think about in the long term of playing the game, as I'm not even maxed out there yet, and I'm at the lower levels of in-game. Now we get to see how his in-game memorial is having an impact on his overall stats, right? So let's take a look at my stats. Remember, earlier in the stream, Sono had all max accessories, and then he had a crit glove that was at 200, and then he had a bunch of other gear that I would say most of my gear is like 60% out of 100, 60 or 70% out of 100, and all of Sono's gear was above 80%. So he was pretty much above optimal for stats. This is all in-game stuff here. And so right now, sitting down, I'm missing a couple things. I'll throw them on. I'm sitting at 590k strength and 13k attack. And I'm going to point out the most important stats here. So 590k strength, 13k attack, 2.4k crit, 300 accuracy, 100k static damage, 96 defense penetration, 1.8k max, and 1k minimum. Now taking a look at, and by the way, this is lower end game. This is like I'm just stepping into end game. I'm getting closer and closer, but it's still a big gap. Taking a look at the difference that his pet potentials alone and his memorials make. So Sono almost has, this is 1 million. 1 million, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So pretty much 1 million flat. He's at 1 million flat strength. He's at 16 to 17k attack range. So you saw he was hitting damage cap earlier. He has almost twice my amount of strength. But a lot of that comes from his memorials, right? Remember, a lot of his memorials were literally twice my numbers, if not 3 times my numbers, and they're optimal. So that is having a major impact on his strength. And then looking at his stats, his basic stats and his strength stats, his percentages are pretty optimal as well. So those are playing a large role. You know, there's a couple other things to consider that are easier to work on, such as the twisted guardian plate, and then these accessories. These all play a role, and I'm sure Sono has specials that are completely optimal as well. These play a role as well, but those memorials are having a large impact on his basic stats. I'd say if I had Sono's basic stats right now, I'd probably jump to about 200k in strength alone. And then the attack, Sono's playing a rogue master though, so a couple of these stats are going to be harder to reach on some other classes, because Rogue Master uses 2 weapons, and most classes, if not every other class in the game, only uses 1. So he's getting a double boost on some of these stats because he has 2 weapons. So keep that in mind as well. As you can see, he has 1,000 more crit damage than I do. He has 1,000 more max, and he has 500 more min, and then his attack is 3k higher. And then as you can see, static damage isn't that important in the game, because even though he has that additional 8% and he has about 20% more on his armor, he's only 70k higher in static damage, which isn't really having a major impact on his damage. So there's some other important stats here that are a little more difficult to talk about and are a little harder to get in the game. But let's look at the amplification as well. So I'm at 24. I'm at 26, and if you saw some of the gameplay earlier where Sono was hitting those higher numbers, see that him being at 29 and 29 for his amps, those play a role as well. And then his added damage is looking to be, I'm at 87k and 54k. He's 10k higher. He's 10k higher in everything. So you're getting direct comparisons. When you scroll back in the stream, you can see some of the earlier gameplay where we were in the same dungeons, and he was able to pretty much hit literally twice the amount of damage I'm hitting. And it's a little harder to see because I'm playing DF, and my damage comes out in a bunch of lines as I'm shooting bullets, while his damage comes out faster, a little bit heavier. Let's take a look at the defense as well. A major part of Sono's defense being higher than mine, he's 20k higher than mine, is because he has those basic stats, right? Basic stats, when you increase your stamina also increases defense, and his stamina is 100k higher than mine, which has that impact. I want to put these stats back on the screen again, just so you can see the impact that those memorials are having on his stats overall. You can also see here that he has 45 pets. This is, once again, extremely optimal, extremely in-game. There's definitely some spending within here, but everything that can be bought in the cash shop can be bought through trading and through Ely farming. And also, Sono said earlier in the stream that he's Ely farms a lot. And in the video I have called The Types of LaTale Players, we showed you PTSD, who's within Sono's tier, someone who's able to actually play the game at his level and hit damage cap in some of the normal dungeons. And I explained in that video that PTSD is a completely free-to-play player. So he was able to get into Sono's bracket, which is higher than my bracket, and that in-game bracket, and get all these stats by playing the game 10 straight months, going pretty hard, and taking advantage of every system the game offers in terms of events, free items, in terms of buying things out of the market when you need them, such as pets, farming Ely for months straight, if that's what it took for him to get the gear that he needed. And all this just gives a different level of perspective in terms of you can get to these points in a variety of ways, but at the end of the day, no matter how you approach it, none of this is going to happen overnight. And I would definitely say, when it comes to pet potentials and memorials specifically, these aren't things that someone who is under Ascension, like I'd say 2K, really should really be focusing on that hard, because there are other things that are in game, such as your armor, your accessories, your weapons. There are just other things you get that are completely in the game that you want to fill first. You want to fill these slots up first and get them to be as optimal as possible before approaching some of these other systems I haven't even approached fully yet, because the impact these stats will have on your account will be much quicker and much noticeable than these long-term ones that will take months of min and maxing. So I want to give some more screenshots here. he's explaining the I'm guessing the impact of how his percent stats are affecting his entire account. So let's take a look at that. So I'm taking everything off here one more time. And Sono took his Sean Palm's third red gem, and he's putting that on to show the difference his percent stats are having on his overall account than mine, and when we're both naked. So this is completely naked. You can see that I have 9 what is that, 98k strength and 2k attack, 1k crit, 300 min, 700 max. Just looking at the essential stats, 77 defense penetration. Looking at the amps, and this gem affects attack, basic stats, max HP, and dual max. Right, so I'm gonna put this gem on. Actually, I want to compare these without the gem on first. Let's look at Sono without the gem on. It's hard to see here, but he has 1.9k attack. So my attack is a little higher than his, and part of the reason for that, I have more attack on my pets, and I have more attack in my memorials, and I have attack inside of my Sean Palm. So my attack is higher than his when we're completely naked. And so let's just look at the basic stats, the 250 basic stats difference. And he's showing that taking off all his gear and putting on this stone, there it is, he has 150k strength without anything on his account. So he took off all of his gear. These are no gems, no specials, no fashion. It's just his memorials and his pet potentials. And as you can see, when we're both completely naked, I'm at 98k strength and he's at 156k. So that's a big difference already. And you can look at his stamina. He's 20k stamina higher. He's almost twice my magic, and he's 20k higher on the luck. And now I'm going to put on this gem. And looking at when I put on my gem, my stats didn't really jump at all. Let's see. With the 250 basic attack, my stats only went up about 500 strength because of the basic stat percentage I have on my account. But Sono's, when he put on his gem, he went from, what is that, 156k, and he went up an entire 3k in strength when he put on his gem because of the percent stats he has on his account. So now you're seeing a direct comparison in the difference those percent stats have. And from his pet potentials and his memorials alone, not only is he already starting off 60k higher than I am, almost 70k higher than I am in strength, but when he puts on that gem, he also increases by an additional 3k. While when I put on the gem, I'm only increasing by 500. And my gem isn't maxed out. Those play a role, but he has 1000 basic stats. He's showing just the difference in the ratios. He's saying it's about a 1-to-3 ratio in our difference in stats from his memorials in terms of basic stats, and then in terms of the fact that his gem is level 9 while mine is level 1. And all this stuff can be easily farmed. You can easily farm and buy this from other players. You can get these from some events, and it's all a work in progress, and it's all over time. Sono already said earlier when he was helping me in the dungeon, he was saying that it took him 2 months to get his glasses, to work on his glasses. I don't know which glasses he was talking about, but either or, you can see that his stats were significantly higher than mine on the glasses, and I've been playing actively for 5 months, and that's just one piece of gear. So you can only imagine how much time is necessary and effort is necessary to reach those stats that he's reached. Once again, though, a lot of this is very in-game, but a lot of the same principles apply on the earlier levels of the game. So it's still valuable information, and it's definitely valuable to understand moving into the later phases of the game. And when you're thinking about the changes you can have, this is not an overnight thing, which is also why in my video about the types of players, I categorize myself as a medium core player, because I recognize that if I want to get to Sono's level, it's going to take a lot more gameplay, a lot more commitment, a lot more grinding. PTSD's level, who's completely free to play, it's going to take a lot more effort, a lot more grinding. And so that's perfectly fine, because this is a Korean MMO, and none of this is going to happen overnight. So I appreciate you, Sono. Even though I talked about a lot of this on stream today, it's very easy to forget a lot of this. And it's easy to, once again, be in that position of what should I do next. And when you have screenshots like this on your account, it's a constant reminder of where you could be later on and what you should be aiming for. This is like absolute optimal min-maxing, getting to like the nitty-gritty down to the dirt. I would consider Sono not even a 1%er in the game. He's like a 0.1%er, because the amount of people in the game who have stats like this is very, very low. So it's definitely a blessing he stepped into the stream today so we can get a chance to look at these stats. These are directly and easily comparable. Once again, he's Ascension 4,139. He has all in-game gear. In-game free to play gear that can be got from dungeons. He has all of it and it's relatively perfectly optimal. So consider those factors before even comparing a lot of this to your current stats. Are you this level? Do you have access to the Ascension system where you get your stats every single level? Where is your strength at? Where is your basic stats at when you're playing the game? Think about that stuff because it all plays a role in Sono's stats. When I take off all my gear, do my basic stats look like Sono's? When I take off all of my gear, you're not wearing any fashion items. You have pet potentials, but you can't see pet potential stats he has right now because remember, all of Sono's pet potentials were crit damage and max. So none of this is paid items. Besides maybe speeding up some of the process of memorials, but that's still ridiculously expensive. And it's all in the memorial resets crystals are 40 million Ely in game. So you have to play the game and you have to farm Ely in order to reroll that enough. So consider all of that. Shout out to Sono. That's Chris Ayo on Discord. You'll probably see him in the LaTale official Discord. So if you see him, remember to shout him out.